We're recording. Red button's on.
A very, very happy Sunday to all of you. This is our August 30th discussion, and we will be talking about my service, which was spiritual lessons from weight loss. So let's dive in. How is everybody doing this morning?
I think we all sort of are here.
Yeah, you look like it.
I'm here.
We've made it.
We made it. It's good
Actually,
to be
I
here.
had a very prosperous and productive morning. So
Okay.
I'm glad to settle down and talk with friends for a while.
That's great. Hopefully you have your coffee going.
That's been drank. I'm working on iced tea now.
I am shilling for the Rockstar Corporation, so I'll expect my royalty check in the mail any day.
I'm sure it's coming.
Well, does anybody have any questions or comments about the service?
I was wondering where you were going to go with this, to be very honest.
Okay.
The last part is, what are we willing to shed?
Yes.
And that was a very, very deep kind of place to go. And I'm still thinking about that right now. It sort of hit me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that things are going fairly well.
Oh, good.
At least
Good.
my perception. But I like the fact that when you were talking about perception of what's around you, we focus on the national, we focus on the community, but we need to focus on ourselves and how we respond, and how can we shed whatever to make it better for ourselves, and I suppose for everybody else in turn, because we only have control here, right?
Yeah.
Is that where you were going, or did I miss that?
Oh, well, where I was going was wherever any of you ended up.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, that's right. And I didn't really spend a lot of time on it because I didn't get your service in time to really focus.
Yeah. So again, in trying to think of an analog between the body and the spirit, or the body and the psyche, okay, so in this stage of my life, for the first time in my life, I have actually encountered people who wished to do me harm. And that is a very, very challenging thing, because in choosing to let go of anger, in choosing to be a forgiving or a gracious person, that's a decision that in theory, it feels like, well, you should just be able to pray for your enemies. You should just be able to forgive your enemies, and then move on, right? So if that is the weight that we're carrying on, that's a very, very poor metaphor for the body, because nobody can say, well, I choose to lose 20 pounds, and then you wake up next morning and it's gone,
No, that's
for that easy.
Right. But the point is that there is a process, that in shedding those aspects of yourself that you don't want, that there is work there, and so being forgiving, being gracious, being spiritually minded, is an ongoing process.
Okay.
And something that I personally expect to spend the rest of my life trying to accomplish.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How, oh God, now it just went out of the brain. If you're compassionate and giving and giving and all that stuff, how do you keep from being run over?
Right.
How do you keep from being taken advantage of?
Right. That's a $1 million question.
Yeah, because I think almost by nature I am a giving person, and yet more recently I have felt, well, last couple of years, I felt like I had been taken advantage of. And, where do I go from here?
Well, maybe we could open that up to the floor. I see a Joe. For my opinion, it would be the first step is that you have to recognize two things. One thing is that you can be taken advantage of. The second thing is that there are people out there who would take advantage of you. Right. And so, a lot of us like to think of the world as being populated by people who are just as kind and just as compassionate as we are, because we only experience the world through our own mind and our own psyche. Right. So it's easy to think that everybody's exactly the same way we are. And unfortunately, the hardest lesson is that that's not the case. Joe wanted to interject.
Yeah, I think if you find people taking advantage of you, the best thing to do is just let them know that, hey, you're taking advantage of me, and I'm not going to put up with that. Because those people that are easygoing and giving, and like the gentleman that Michael talked about at the gas station. If another couple of cars came in, I'm sure he would finally say, look, enough is enough.
That's a good point.
And that's what you need to do, is just let them know, okay, enough is enough. I've given to you, you've taken from me, and what have I gotten in return except grief?
The example I was, the thing I was trying to focus on was, I have a beautiful garden in my front yard, and it had waterfall and pond, and it was really pretty. And I don't know how I got this guy, but $2,500 later, the waterfall is still not working.
Mm-hmm.
And and it wasn't until afterwards that, and I never heard from him again. Of course, I never tried to contact him either, but that I realized that I had actually been taken.
Yeah.
And, so now I have a young man that's going to come in, and he is going to give me an estimate, and I have more faith in him than I did the other guy.
In some cases, I think you just have to cut your losses, unfortunately. If there is some recourse, like if you were asking for advice, I would say write a letter instead of talking, because if people are manipulative, it's very easy to be manipulated during the course of a conversation. Whereas if you write a letter, then, presumably they would have to read it. But it's unfortunate, because some people are easy targets, and you, Mrs. Wheeler, unfortunately are an easy target.
Yeah.
She's so loving.
Yeah. So we got a great tour of Kim's property just a moment ago. I don't know if any of you were watching.
I had to stop looking. It made me dizzy.
Right.
Like I was on a roller coaster kind of thing.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah.
The fair rides and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
my internet's causing me trouble today.
yeah. Well, here
Better outside.
in the interest of keeping some sort of discussion going, I have to gripe for a moment. So we were on our post-service discussion last week, and Kim brought up that she said, guys, I just don't always feel comfortable at the church. I'm paraphrasing Kim, so correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong. And so Kim says, guys, I just don't feel very comfortable in the church because I'm a conservative Republican and Trump supporter, and you all are so deeply dedicated to left-wing politics. I feel like an outsider. And everybody in the chat was like, oh my God, if only someone would have told us this before. It was just a very surreal experience. And I thought, is it possible that maybe I break into Russian when I'm talking about these things, that nobody understands what I'm saying? You know, is it possible that like a sonic boom flies over the church that drowns out my voice when I'm talking about the need to being
Talking
accepting
about
of
Michael,
others?
get to it.
So anyway, that's my gripe.
My gripe was that what I heard was a lot of people saying, oh no, I don't hate anyone. It sounded like Nancy Pelosi. Well, I do. I get bugged. And I don't hate people, but there are people like Trump who just frost me. And I don't care. You don't have to like it. I don't like him. And
That's,
you're entitled to your opinion.
oh, yes, yes. Oh, totally.
There you
I mean,
go.
yeah, by all means, nobody should have an opinion. No, my only gripe was that I've been harping on this for like 3 years. And the reaction last week was like, we've never heard this before. That's my gripe.
Well, I think those of us who have been in the choir with Kim are much more familiar with the things that she feels are important. And she's
Right.
opened up to us. And
Yeah.
I believe that that's, you know, one thing that I think is a positive thing. And we all miss having those wonderful
that's-
discussions that we do have at choir. I mean, you know, intellectual and whatever else, you know, crazy or what all. But that's true. A lot of people are surprised when somebody says, oh, I don't feel like I belong here. And on the other hand, sometimes some of us feel like we don't belong here either. You know what I mean? So not here at church, but here in the general environment. You know?
Well, that's true. Yeah. And places do carry a culture.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's enough people of a certain mindset or of a certain tradition, which is primarily what distinguishes one place from another. Yeah.
One thing I like about our congregation is that we can agree to disagree.
That's right.
And we can still belong. And it's very comfortable in that way. I just remember the first time I came to this congregation and how I felt at home, not knowing that other people had different opinions. It's okay. You know, everyone is equal in our congregation. I don't care what office they hold or what their position is. We're
Mhm.
all equal, and it's so comfortable. But I have one comment about the service
Oh,
today.
great. Okay, good. I
Yes,
didn't think we were going to get back to that, so hooray.
I found it quite difficult to relate to the music during the chalice lighting.
Mm, yeah.
And it's foreign to me. I mean, I
Relate to
feel
what?
like I have a pretty comprehensive knowledge of different music, but that was a little bit far out for me.
Which,
Yeah.
It's
which
modern
one?
modern composition, the Sifo Sifoco.
The first one?
Yeah, if I were fire,
Mhm.
I would burn.
Oh, yeah,
I
I like
would-
that one.
I would burn the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I were fire, I
Once
would
I got
burn
the
the world.
translation, I like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Did
That
everybody
was
else
your-
like it?
That was your music, right, Michael?
Yes, it was. Yes.
You,
That, that's
you
Yeah.
composed that. That's
I
why it's
did.
far out. I've heard other stuff that he's done.
You composed that, eh?
Well, you know that I always when I do my services, I always put my music in there because I
Yeah.
know for sure we're not going to get a copyright strike, you know.
Yes, that's
So, but yeah, outside of that, you know, it's that poem was a what it was kind of like a war cry to me when I first read that poem. And I was an Italian student in college, and it's written in a very kind of archaic Italian. And I thought I must, you know, I need to set this because this poem means so much to me in terms of like motivation and things like that. So,
Say the whole poem again, would you?
oh,
If I were fire,
if I were fire, I would burn the world. I don't
Consume
have,
the world.
yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I don't
If
know.
I were wind, I would blow it down. If I
Yep.
were water, I'd make it drown. And if I were God, I would hurl it to the
the
depths of the
depths.
world.
Yeah.
Something like that. I tried to write it down because it was
Yeah.
quite fascinating. In other words,
Yeah.
you would just go to the nth degree
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get in there.
Oh yeah.
That's basically what you meant, correct?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
I was
indeed.
wondering if my mind was working, because that's,
But
sometimes
also,
it doesn't.
yeah, but also, I can experiment with my own services a lot more than I can experiment with other people's, because I feel like if I push something too far in one direction with another person's service, then, I'm messing with somebody else's idea. I feel like I can mess with my own idea a little more.
I see.
Yeah.
I really liked the meditative music and the
Oh, good.
fact that you
Yes.
had the
Yeah, I
poem,
like that.
in frame, which I think is we're doing a little mini critique here, but that
Yeah,
is
that's okay.
basically very, very helpful. So, and like having the words for during the chalice lighting, because I don't think the impact would have been for me. I was enchanted by the music, for example. Her voice was just absolutely lovely.
Yes.
Darlene.
So yeah. So anyway, that just as a little service note or a little editing graphic design note, to me that was very helpful. But the music was beautiful, just beautiful.
Thank you.
The editing is better all the time. That was very smoothly done.
Well, what's funny is Martha was so kind to me. She said, and he's doing excellent work, and then it goes black.
Yeah,
right
that's
after
right.
you said he's doing a great job, and then I make an editing mistake right after that.
That was Wednesday when I said that, Michael.
Yeah, I
mean,
know. Well, thank you all. I appreciate the critiques and the kind words alike.
Michael, would you mind saying why you quoted that poem, but what was the context in your sermon? Right.
Well, the context is assuming your own power, right? Assuming that you are a creature of enormous capability, and so that's why I mean, if you wanted to talk about the music, the way that the music came about was I was studying Indian music at the time, and I wanted to know if I could take an Indian raga and apply the principles of an Indian raga to a serial piece of music. So serial music is like, it's very mathematical, it's like you create a tone row of different notes, and then you choose the notes individually, and you have to expire all of the notes before you go back and reuse anyway, it getting
It
super
sounds really great.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so that's why, to Lois's credit, it sounds strange if you're not used to hearing music like that. Yeah.
But that's what's cool about it, though.
Yeah. Thanks. If this is something that you're curious about, Lois, you could look up the composer Arnold Schoenberg, and he had a breakthrough piece of music called Pierrot Lunaire, which is Love Struck Pierrot. It's a series of German poems that he set to music with a small orchestra, which is just unbelievably unique and very and very cool. It's music that my mother hates, so
There's another comment I have. I like very much the reading that whenever you meet with other people, there's a part of you that stays with every meeting after you're gone.
Yes.
And that's so true.
Yes. Yeah.
That came right out of our hymnal, one of our readings from our hymnal.
Yeah. I think about the dinners we've had with different people here at the house, and how much I feel enriched by having known all of them. Bob is right here. How do you feel, Bob?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's
Bob needs to move over.
Yeah. Well, and that was something that I was really trying to get across in the Unlikely Ministers talk, and in the story about the man, who pumped my gas. We will never fully appreciate the impact, positive or negative, but hopefully positive, that we have on the people around us and the people that we meet.
So be on guard.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. If you went through your life thinking about that, if your goal is to do good in the world, you know, and letting that guide you in every encounter, I have a feeling that we would all have a lot less regrets if that were the case.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I think of a lot of things that I said. They come back to me and I hear them in a different voice sometimes.
Mm.
Oh my God, did I really? I didn't mean that the way it came out.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, you know, that's a really good point, Betsy, especially in the world of electronic communications, of text message and yeah, where things can be misconstrued so easily.
And they're so permanent.
Yeah, that's true.
There they are forever.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Sharon has joined us. Hello, Sharon. Is Sharon frozen?
I don't see her. I
No,
guess
but she might be.
Yeah, there she is. Sharon,
Still frozen.
Sharon,
are
Yeah.
you unmuted? Is she muted or what?
she,
Everybody's unmuted.
I
Yeah,
don't see her, no.
it's okay.
Trying to connect to
It's
audio.
okay. It might be a technical. Oh, there she goes. We lost her.
she left. She left.
Oh,
It's okay. She'll be back hopefully.
Julianne, haven't heard from you.
I pulled up a quote from Marcus Aurelius, a famous Stoic that I'd like to share. It's rather lengthy, but it's on my list of favorite ever quotations. I'm going to read it to you. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood and birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. And so none of them can hurt me. No one can implicate me in ugliness, nor can I feel angry at my relative or hate him. We were born to work together. To feel anger at someone, to turn your back on him, these are unnatural.
Here, Sharon.
that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
I like that.
and
Powerful.
if you've never read Meditations, you know, you really cannot read too much Marcus Aurelius. You really can't, because he is, and thank you for sharing that, Julianne. He is a direct check in the study of history on the idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Because here he was an emperor. He had virtually absolute power, and yet he lived this incredibly Spartan and monk-like life. And he wrote about it in Meditations. I always thought that for a good education, that young people, like people entering their teen years, ought to read the Enchiridion. People entering their adult life should read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, and people reflecting on the rest of their life should read Boethius, The Consolation of Philosophy.
Okay, Boethius, yeah.
Yeah, and that those three texts really constitute what it is for me, a complete education. Yeah. So, yeah, bring forward all of the Marcus Aurelius quotes you want. It's
Yeah.
they are.
They're
Sorry.
absolutely inspiring
Yeah.
still.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and same thing with the Enchiridion and the Consolation of Philosophy. Yeah, both are super worthwhile. Sharon, do we have audio with you yet?
Yes,
Oh, hooray! There we go.
Good morning.
it took a while.
Yeah, that's okay.
Nice to see you, girl.
Well, thank you. I was wondering if anybody noticed the quote that Michael gave at the beginning of his sermon
Hmm.
about accepting what you cannot change,
Right.
etc.
Right.
Yep.
Which is in the Enchiridion. Yeah.
Yep.
It's the first paragraph of the Enchiridion.
So my thought is, since it is so much probably the original of the paraphrase that AA uses,
Exactly.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I wonder how many of other Marcus Aurelius quotations have been adapted for our times.
Yeah. Well, the Enchiridion is by Epictetus.
Well, that's
but
what I meant.
yeah. But no, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure, for posterity, just in case anybody wants to look it up. That's a good
Well,
question.
I do, so I'm glad you corrected.
Yeah.
Epictetus.
Yeah, Julianne.
Marcus Aurelius was quite influential in early Christianity.
Mhm.
And especially Paul was a follower of the Stoics. So there is much influence in those early texts.
Yeah. And the way that a lot of Stoic philosophy is translated has been very Christianized,
Right.
not that I doubt you could find any translations of the Stoics prior to Christianity, but if you did, I imagine the originals are not nearly as didactic as they end up being.
So my thought is the ancients have been plagiarized.
Yeah,
True.
that's very true.
Yeah.
Just think of the royalties that are owed.
Yeah.
So we should give them credit and understand about communal sharing.
Absolutely. But yeah, well, I mean, that's where education comes in, that I mean, heck, there is nothing that exists in this world that's been created by humans that is not based on something earlier created by humans, right? There is no original idea out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if you could trace, virtually every story in the Bible back to an earlier story, which traced back to earlier stories, and if you're a Jungian at all, the explanation for that is that there is something deep in our genetics, that there's something deep in the evolution of humanity, that we have this genetic memory. And so the stories that we tell, especially the mythology that we tell, are deep it rests in the deep psychic recesses of our minds, and that we're trying to make sense of that through story. Oh, that's it. That's the end of the conversation.
I'm muddling through all of that, what you just said. I think.
Well, yeah. So
it's really
mhm.
pretty tremendous.
So take, for instance, the idea of the dragon. The dragon, is a fairly universal symbol of chaos. Now, of course, you could get into the Asian, like the Chinese or the Japanese dragon versus like the Western style dragons. But for the most part, a dragon is, and I'm quoting here. This is me plagiarizing, Sharon. So just make note of it. But so, what is the dragon? The dragon is kind of like a low resolution image of the most terrifying things that our ancestors would have had to deal with. So what is a dragon? A dragon is kind of an amalgamation of a snake, a cat, and a bird, right? Because our ancient primate ancestors, those three things were the biggest threat to their survival: snakes, birds, and cats. And if you take it back further, that fish or amphibious animals have a great fear of creatures with very large jaws and teeth for obvious reasons, right? And so the idea is that we carry that instinct with us genetically, and because we only have those fears on a genetic level, we have to try and make sense of those fears in a tangible way. And that's how story comes about.
Interesting.
Yes. and I would direct you to Carl Jung for
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and the idea of the collective unconscious. So
Getting a mini course in just a general college education just in this discussion here.
Martha, do you have the written form of the sermon today?
No, I do not.
Or Michael, do you even do that? I think you
no,
do outline, don't you?
I make an outline, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, if we were really in need of it, I suppose we could do like a text to speech software, but
yeah, that would be helpful.
But
I know
the feedback, and before the whole coronavirus thing, the overwhelming feedback that I always got from people was that they don't like to be read to.
That's true.
Yeah. And so I've always tried to conduct talks in an extemporaneous way, so that people don't feel like they're being read to.
Well, that's true, and it's an art to be able to read off a script and have it seem natural.
That is true.
I do like to have a written form also because I can digest it better. When you hear it, it's like water in a stream. It's gone. Yeah, and it's hard to recapture the whole essence. Whereas
that's why we have them recorded. We can go back and look at it again and again
true.
and again and again.
That's
I rewound
true.
you a couple of times when I missed something.
Yeah.
You can binge watch UU services.
Yeah.
And we're putting the recorded discussions up on the site as well, so you could just spend all afternoon and evening.
Oh, yes.
Weeks,
I have a
days.
mind. Yeah. Yep.
So, but I think basically what I personally like is to have, like the text in front of me. So when you put the text of the opening, that poem, and you put the text of the meditation, to me that was so helpful, so you could focus on those words, because I'm a visual person. My auditory memory is let's face it, it was gone even before I was older. I mean, so
I have to say that I am exactly the same way.
Yeah.
You can speak to me and give me instructions, and they are totally, they go through both ears and encounter nothing. And
thank you, Julianne. I knew there was a reason why our birthdays are on the same day.
Yeah, that's it. But and I can read it ever so much faster and absolutely remember every bit of it if I can but read it once.
Agreed. Yeah.
So it's a value for me.
Oh, we have a cat. Is he a UU?
My honey.
Not mine. Oh, there. Oh, it's Julianne's.
Yeah. There.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is Haas.
Haas?
It was his birthday this week also.
Oh, that's sweet.
Hi, Haas.
He is 17.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, mine is 20. So,
Oh.
yes.
She's still hanging in there. She didn't join us for the service either.
Thank God for that, because her
She didn't go up the stairs.
Yeah.
Several times she's gone up the stairs in the middle of his service.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's my shadow. So, well, let's see. In the interest of making this about you and not about me, does anybody feel like sharing examples of psychic or spiritual weight that they're carrying around that they might want to shed? Okay, Sharon, there we go.
How about physical items?
Okay.
Some of you know that I have been attempting for a number of years to downsize, and I find it extremely challenging to part with my books.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I do not want to part with my books. And trying to share them with others has not been totally successful. So I'm announcing to everybody, I have numerous books on education, on music, on self-help, psychology. if you have need for a physical item to hold, you might want to let me know. I'm more of a nonfiction reader than I am fiction.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad I gave you that opportunity to advertise for your garage sale, Sharon. No.
Well, I did find out since I have $85 worth of credit at While Away,
Oh, wow.
that I'll never use it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh,
they
wow.
want you to hand over money when you purchase something there, that they'll only give you a percentage of your credit.
Yeah.
And so I've been checking my options, and I talked to one of the owners at Books Gallery in Sutherland. And she said she believes in recirculation.
Mm-hmm.
So she gets books that she knows she cannot sell. She gives them away to St. Vincent de Paul, to retirement homes. She just keeps redistributing. And I thought that was wonderful, because I wondered, what did these businesses do with the excess books?
Yeah. If anybody's ever seen the movie Fight Club, there's a oh, bless you. There is a dialogue that goes, "Everything you own owns you."
Yes.
And that physical possessions are something that, and believe me, if you ever come to my house, you know, it's an absolute museum of musical instruments and artwork, right? And swords. so if I were to move, God help me. Actually, God help all
God
of
can't
you.
help you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had a dream last night, which sort of relates, that I suddenly was told I was moving to San Diego.
Oh, wow.
My dream. Now, what do you do at my age with a house this big, with all the garbage that Joe and I have collected over time? I still have the first story I wrote in like 3rd grade in my little, I'm one of those, yeah. And so there's something in my psyche that says, lady, you need to start downsizing, because you don't want Diane and Karen and everybody else in the family to have to come in this house and bulldoze their way through the stuff. But just so I'd let you know, if you don't see me, I've gone to San Diego.
Okay, good. We know where to look for you.
Yeah.
Are you taking Joe with you, or are you?
I don't know. He wasn't there. I don't know. And Joe, I'm so sorry. Well, you weren't in my dream. There were all kinds of people I didn't know.
So.
But yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, does anybody else feel like confessing a?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am angry that I left a lot of my precious books when I moved up here, because that's the one I was looking for.
Yeah.
That happened.
A lot of these things I've never touched since I've gotten here, but that other one that I left behind, like I had a marvelous book of maps. If you wanted to know where Podunk, Iowa was, you could find it. If you wanted to know where Zitzi's at, Russia was, you could find it. Can't move things up anymore.
What would you do with those books if you had them now? Would you be reading them, or?
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, Betsy, let me acquaint you with Google Earth. Yeah. You know Google Earth, Betsy?
No, go ahead.
Oh, on your computer, you can find anything.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Google Earth is wonderful. You can download it and it's free.
But there is something really special about having the book in front of you, like holding it. And, yeah.
The old books that I used when I was in school. Like right now, I would like to go back to the poetry that I like the best.
Right.
Well, it's not here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Glennis, I saw your hand go up.
Well, 2 things. First of all, I just got rid of a whole bunch of books because I moved. Although I did unload them after the move, so it would have been easier if I had planned a little bit better. but the criteria was I kept my antique books, I kept all my spiritual stuff, although I let go some of it.
Mhm.
I kept all of my student books, all of them. And everything else, I have so many books on Kindle and that I'm not going to get to. And the truth is that all of the books that I let go of, I had kept because I loved them and thought I would maybe go back and read them. But the honest truth is that no, I won't. I've got so many other things ahead that I've got to read, you know. So it's about being honest about whether I was actually going to go back. So I let go of some books that I absolutely loved and would have loved to have read again. And I found one or two of them audio books on YouTube, so I don't feel that much worse about it than I could have. The other thing that I wanted to speak to was your food metaphor. And as for me, that has been a struggle, physical food struggle for most of my life.
Okay.
Still is. And if you want a confession, I am a I have binge eating disorder. So when you're overstuffing yourself with food, the idea is because you're trying to fill a hole. And it's a hole in the psyche, not so much a hole in your stomach. You know, it's so connected that I couldn't help but see take it a step further in as far as my own situation goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm right there with you. I overeat as a way to cope with life, you know,
Yep.
terribly. Yeah. And you know, and not just that, but you know, like for instance, like beer and cider, you know, because alcohol is not terribly good for you anyway, you know, but it's just so easy, like when you're in the depths of depression, to drink something, especially like beer, which is so satisfying if you're thirsty, you know. Like and yeah, it's that, I would say it's that emptiness or replacing it, right? Like somehow the food is going to displace those negative feelings that you're having.
So typically you eat food that isn't good for you
Exactly.
in that process,
Mm-hmm.
and you eat it without hardly stopping.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
in a true binge, your mind is in one spot and your body is reaching for whatever you can find.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a matter of eating. If you're going to do that, eating better food for you, so that physically you're better off. But the metaphor continues in choosing situations and people and things in your life that are good for you, and get rid of the stuff that really will kill you.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, think about the guilt that you feel after you binge eat, you know, right? I mean, it is, and it's real palpable guilt. Now, let's say, you know, if you were to extend the metaphor, you know, think about the guilt that you feel. I'm going to be crass. I'm sorry, you know, for any guy who's just relentlessly sought sex after a day of using people for, you know, selfish reasons. You know, it comes from the same source, you know, and that source is that there is, I think, within us either a darkness that has manifested, or it's always been there, but for some reason it is our darkness that likes to be fed, right? And when it's fed, it becomes familiar to us, and there is comfort in what is familiar to us. So that's why we do things that are self-harming, you know, and maybe even harming others by proxy, right? Is because there is that comfort in the familiarity of it.
Yeah.
And we've got, and that it's vital to break that cycle. And how you do that outside of self-awareness and, you know, meditation, I'm not sure, you know.
Well, that's what I use.
Yeah.
Definitely meditation does help that.
Yeah. You know, if anybody has any thoughts on how you break the cycle of self-harm, then, you know, by all means.
Wow.
Yeah, I have something.
Yeah, Lois?
I say that's very deep. I
Yeah.
have to think about breaking that cycle.
Well,
Well, I have something.
Here's Bob. Let him say something.
Yeah.
well, I am lazy, and I have things that I tend to like to do that aren't productive in benefiting me or anyone else. But I find a way to get around that tendency is to go to the tube that we're looking at right now and pick out something that is on Netflix. And there's some very good recent history there that we've enjoyed, but totally wasteful, but satisfying. It's satisfying me, this need to be wasteful. I self-criticize myself when I'm not actively working on my list of stuff that I think I would get done. But it's an easy step to get away from is to go to Netflix, which we do almost every night.
Well, lately, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been watching Shameless. Does anybody watch that?
I've only
You
seen
can
the
see
ads
bits
for
of
it.
yourself in everything they do. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to come up from week to week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon, I saw your hand go up. I hope I'm not missing.
Yeah, I'm
anyone.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
I have two options to offer, and I'm not an expert in this, but through Qigong training, if there's a place, there's an acupoint on your ear that addresses addictions. And I don't remember where it is. So when I find that I'm repeatedly doing something that may not be like binge eating, but that I recognize for myself is not the best thing for me to be doing, I'll just massage my whole ear because I can't remember the point. And the other thing is there's an amino acid called L-glutamine that if you pop one of those capsules, and I don't remember the dosing, when you get the craving for a cigarette, for beer, for food, it will cut out the craving.
Yeah. My L-glutamine pills are 1,000 milligrams each. So
Do you
that's,
just take one or do you take three?
the direction says take one twice daily, but yeah. But yeah, that, I don't know if it's psychosomatic or what, but there is a change when your supplements are good, for me anyway. But yeah, you know, when we're talking about these things, and again, to go back to like a psychology angle, you know, is that your brain is not especially good at doing repetitive tasks. So what happens is that your brain will construct machines to do tasks for you, and these become habits. Now, the worst part about this is that if you want to break a bad habit, your brain isn't really capable of deconstructing the machine that causes that habit, right? Your brain has to construct another machine to counteract that first one in order to undo the habit. Now, the problem with that is that in times of stress or grief, that second machine just breaks down, and that's why so many people return to really unhealthy bad habits, because it's become that hardwired into them, right? And so, you know, any trick that you can come up with, whether it be acupuncture or L-glutamine or meditation or whatever, you know, I would say use it all because it really is a battle. It's a battle for the well-being of your existence. So
I have two thoughts.
yeah.
Can I get in here?
Of course.
Yeah, I was asking permission. One, I have found the 12-step program incredibly helpful, because little phrases will come to me that I learned in Al-Anon. Aha, you know, it'll just sort of hit me in the head. Oh, yes, of course. It just feels like it's very, very pertinent.
Yeah. Could you name a couple of the steps for us?
Let go and let God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Make amends is
Yeah.
one.
yeah.
That's a huge
Yeah,
one.
but Brighton.
Mhm.
On command, no.
Yeah. Oh no, that's okay. I was just curious if you had one of them in mind. But yeah, the let go and let God, and then making amends.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's vital stuff. Yeah.
But it's, and there's something else that I keep remembering, we are all part of something so much bigger, and we're just like a part of the universal, that we are one. That's not AA, that's just my basic philosophy.
Right.
And so we are one, and I am you and you are me.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hang on to that sometimes, but it's when I feel unfared on, that helps a lot, that I am one of you,
Yeah,
and you
it'll
are
go back.
one of me.
Mhm. I couldn't agree more. That was actually something that I was trying to get across with the idea of acting for the self and then acting for the immediate community. It's the idea that in the same way that we are a body made up of cells, that the human body is made up of individuals.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. I
Yeah, I do
truly,
too.
I
And
do.
to connect with the natural world helps a lot.
Yep. Mhm.
Because I am also that duck or that heron or that cat or whatever.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Martha?
I found this little piece of paper that I have on my desk. And one time you did a really good sermon on the 7 principles from macro to micro.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've got that list right here. And every once in a while I take a look at it. And it goes from every person, the individual, to all the way up to all in existence.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And sometimes people forget those very crucial connections and it goes to the fact of when you go out, try the best you can to see that your behavior, what you think, what you do, what effect does it have on everybody around you. And it just like the coronavirus, as you have, you go here and you do something and pretty soon there's 30 people, and pretty soon there's 300 people. So you have to watch what you do.
Can I one more?
Okay.
When I was a little girl, my mother taught me a prayer that helps me re-emphasize that whole thing of we are one. I am a link in the golden chain of love that stretches around the world. Help me to make my link bright and strong.
Mm.
I love that, Betsy. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And yeah, that is a beautiful encapsulation of the 7 principles from micro to macro. Right. Which was something that I really appreciated about Stephen Landale's talk when he said that, the first and the 7th principle are really the 2 pillars of our faith, because it recognizes the individual and the universal. And yeah. Well, I don't know if we can do better than ending on a prayer like that. Yeah. Does anybody have any final thoughts or anything they'd like to share before we adjourn?
Ask Betsy to repeat it.
Betsy, would you please say that prayer again?
I am a link in the golden chain of love that stretches around the world. Help me to make my link bright and strong.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, lovely.
What a legacy for your mom to give to you. That is wonderful.
Yeah.
I agree.
Philosophy.
Well, this was fun. Thank you, everyone, for spending an hour of your Sunday with me. I enjoy seeing you all very much. So we'll go ahead and adjourn for today, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everybody.